So this is a sequence diagram that we went over a little bit last time. And then I real time drew one sequence diagram also, which looked at monitoring the patient health data, pre-processing by removing this personal information, creating some local embeddings, doing some inference in the sandbox, validation request to the orchestrator, and finally coming back with actions. Okay, so this is the type of sequence diagram that we went over. Real time, I was drawing this last time. Then I also looked at how to build a case for prototype. I was telling you about literature survey, gap analysis, what are your requirements, split them into mandatory and optional requirements, and what are the architectural points of interface, which are mainly UE, core, and edge space. Then we looked at a simple template of use case requirements, which explains one by one the criticality and the numbered requirements like this, and then the aspects which each of them touch, for example, optimization, security measures, etc. And I left you with telling that this building implementation and deployment requirements helps us to distinguish innovations. Okay, that's where we stopped last time. But today, let us look at again certain aspects about prior art. Okay, so you can see there are two types of possibilities that you come up with. One possibility where your idea is kind of alone. It's in some landscape where you think you are very pioneering. I mean, you are in this forest and you are a pioneer, looks like in this forest as well. But at the same time, it looks very alone, no? It's very lonely here. But if you put in the prior arts very carefully and build your case carefully, then you can actually sit on top of these giants' shoulders. So this is the real use of literature survey and prior arts. So my suggestion will be when you create these proposals, make sure that the literature survey clearly brings out the strengths of your use case. Clever use of literature survey and prior arts can clearly bring out the strengths of your use case. You have
Hello.
no prior art means that your idea is lonely and you are either too ahead of your time or your idea is most probably useless. But if you are showing your prior arts very carefully, if you are building up your case carefully with literature survey, that shows that your idea is contemporary, it is relevant, and it has the scope of going forward. So don't leave your idea alone in the landscape. Connect it with existing state of the art and explain how the idea builds on top of the state of the art and bring out the unique aspects of the solution. This is one important aspect of all high quality proposals that I have seen in my life. If you think that many innovators I have seen that they tell me, no, there are no prior arts. That means your idea is alone in this forest. Okay, don't do that. Then I want to revisit how to write the requirements a little bit more like last time. We just showed you one example, but I want to now take a little bit more example on how to write requirements. Please remember what I told you previously as well. Writing good requirements brings out distinguishing aspects of your innovations. So that means that how to write good requirements will determine whether your idea has potential later point of time for filing as IPR included, isn't it? So if you write good requirements, then it makes sense to later develop this innovation. So first step is to put on your developer hat. So how would you design this? How would you implement this idea? So this is the first step that includes a specific example that we look at in a bit. What is nice to have and what is crucial. So that means that what is mandatory and what is optional, like we discussed last time, but a little bit more detail as to what is nice to have and what is crucial. What are the dependencies of this use case? This again relates back to what are the giants that you are sitting on top of as well. Let us take a very specific example, a fault management use case where AI model predictively manages faults in the network with minimal human intervention. This is a very typical use case, right? You must have seen this previously. This is a very typical autonomous network use case. Some people call it zero touch, whatever you call it. This is a very typical use case. In this, if when you analyze this use case, it's a good idea to look at what is the data needed to train this solution. Now, first of all, again, please remember the pipeline that you talked about here. Okay, the source of inputs, the aggregation, pre-processing, sandbox models, policies, distribution, and where you would apply this um, inference results. So when you look at what is the data need to be trained, that needed to train this such solutions, then one aspect of the solution is clear. So that means potentially you will look at logs, alarms, something of the sort, right? Which you can use to predict this faults and potentially take some proactive actions to solve this solution. Where are the sources of data? I mean, there could be core network data, which looks at data, alarms, events, or RAN data, maybe from the edge, maybe from the management plane, maybe. So you need to identify these sources of this data. Are there aggregation points which are needed? For example, if you would like to do anonymization, if you would like to clean the data, if you would like to do a multi-model data fusion, if you could please mute
They're
your
talking,
lines,
huh?
please mute your lines,
Thanks, place
please,
hotel.
please mute your lines. You need to aggregate things, collect things, time synchronization. These are some of the aggregation aspects that you do, right? And then there are generalized generation tools, that is, the synthetic data generation tools, which are available, which could be used to simulate the scenarios, because some of the scenarios are rare. Error scenarios are there, which cannot be found real network or real data. So that scenarios has to be generated. So that's such tools can also be used in combination with the real data to augment the data, etc. And how would I test this solution? Do I need simulators? Do I need tool sets which are in your 5G use case lab? Or you need open source solutions, right? So if you remember, we looked at this point where how to best use case labs. This point is related to what I am telling here. That is, how would I test this solution? When your answer to this solution will probably get you points which ticks a couple of boxes regarding how whether this how to best use the use case labs. Um, then what are the error cases? So that means that you are covering not only the success cases, not only the sunny day scenarios, but also the rainy day scenarios where there is error cases possible. Those scenarios also you need to call out. And what are the granular scenarios? This is a very high level use case. But what are the granular scenarios in this use case? Let's look at, in combination with that particular use case, let's look at how to increase the novelty. This is again going back to what we discussed previously, that you need to have novelty. You see this? See this point, the containing aspects for novelty. So that means to win this competition, win this hackathon, you need to increase your novelty. There is no knob that you can turn, okay? I'm sorry about that. So, to increase this creativity, increase the innovation aspect, you need to find some other ways. So, couple of thumb rules are that you look at specific customizations on top of existing solutions, but quantifying the value that you can bring. That means, are there large values which you can bring? Quantifiable benefits. I mean, value means benefits. What kind of benefits can you bring? And do the trade-off really help us also, right? So this is the first question which will increase your novelty factor, that in with respect to the prior arts, with respect to your literature survey, with respect to your state of the art, what are the specific scenarios, specific customizations that you are bringing? And are there deployment scenarios? Are there deployment scenarios which can optimize the existing solutions? That's another question which you could ask yourself. For example, in this case, in this fault management use case that we discussed just now, are there, um, are there privacy preserving training mechanisms? That's a customization. Everybody talks about training. But in your proposal, you're talking about privacy preserving training mechanism. That will distinguish yourself from somebody else who is having a similar proposal but not handling the privacy preserving training mechanism. Second thing that you can look at is local knowledge bases, that is, with different planes. Yeah, I'm talking about this particular use case, okay? So the local knowledge bases could be tied to RAN specific cases, core network specific cases, or management plane specific cases. So you need to see what are the local knowledge bases in different domains in your solution, which can be used to increase your novelty quotient. Are there cross-domain data which is applicable? For example, there are scenarios that you can look at where you have network data with applications, and inside the network itself there are multiple layers, and multiple domain-specific data itself can be used together to form some cross-domain insights. So, are there such solutions possible? And next one is orchestration impacts. When you are talking about this kind of pipelines, then and sequences, are there orchestration of these pipelines or these elements that you are here having here, or the integration of this messaging itself? So these kind of orchestration, resource handling, etc., can be handled by using orchestration impacts. Then automation mechanisms. For example, you would have feedback loops. You would have long-term feedback loops, short-term feedback loops. These are important automation mechanisms which will handle both short-term and short-term and longer-term feedback and adaptation through automation mechanisms. Are there feature-specific data? For example, if you are looking at this kind of we looked at remote monitoring as a feature example, right? So are there specific feature specific data which can be used to gathered to train as well as create the AI solutions? That is another in way to call out and increase your novelty aspect. And the last aspect here, which I have as example, is making it real time. For example, in this particular case, as soon as the fault is predicted, immediately can you take actions to make it more real time and proactive and dynamic and so on. So these are some aspects which you can build in your proposal, which will make and increase the novelty quotient of your proposal. Another thing, important thing, is finding tool sets. I think the last time we kind of discussed this. Let's take one example. Okay, this kind of um, human pose reconstruction. So this is a very well-known use case where you want to do fall detection in elderly and such cases where the pose reconstruction is important for um, using wearable sensors. That is the use case as such. Now, now this requires a set of characteristics. First is a simulation of path loss models, signal analysis in complex environments, building information models, not building as a verb, but building as in a noun. That means that you have information models corresponding to buildings. I mean, makan, buildings. So building information models is another important aspect in post reconstruction and sensors related to path loss models, indoor path loss models, and so on. You need to represent the scene geometries in a USD format, and that is scene description. The scene description formats are used, and then there are many tool sets like digital twin tool sets, which allows you to import geospatial data, for example, in OpenStreetMap, etc. So this kind of a selection of a use case leads you down a path of creating information models, simulation of path loss models, representing them in universal scene descriptors, using tool sets such as Blender or some kind of animation tools to create these scene descriptors, and representing them in OpenStreetMap type solutions. So this is a bunch of choices that you made right there, and then you are able to drop the base stations and users around the building, around the map um, to study the SINR values or the radio propagation models, ray tracing. Such aspects can be studied using tool sets and formats which are related to this particular use case. So in your proposal, you need to call out what tool set are you using, how they are interrelated with each other, and if there are standards like industry standards like this whatever GML, XML format which is mentioned here, then you need to mention that in your standard as I mean proposal as well. Open source tools such as this is an open source tool which is GPU accelerated, or it will work with CPU also. In the context of this kind of simulation, path laws, construction of SINR values, etc., I'm saying, I mean, evaluation of SINR values and the channel estimation, that is where this kind of tool sets can help. This shown is one example. There are other examples also possible where you can build the physical layer models, simulate end-to-end links, use try out optimization techniques, and then you can show that your proposal is really comprehensive. So it allows you to complement the use case lab as we show here. It's not only limited to what is available in the use case lab, but also building existing solutions into it to create such error case scenarios, create such data sources and data sets, and then bringing out the best normality possible from such using such data sets and scenarios. There are some examples that I have called out here as well that you can use, and this link is a open source link. So there is a workflow that I have shown here, which is specific to the tool. If you are working on 3GPP channel models, etc., with the transmitter channel model receiver, etc., you can use this kind of a tool. But I'm not going into specific steps today. We can perhaps look at use case specific. If somebody is picking such use cases, then we can look at this separately. So, in general, how to make your proposal end to end and scalable. So, this is another aspect which we looked at. Um, which we looked at in the criteria here. Implementation and scalability is one of the criteria. So, you need to look at how to make it scalable and implementable. Uh, So throughout these mentoring sessions, we will look at use case review, data analysis. What are the test beds in addition to the 5G use case test beds and labs that you have? What are the open source tool sets that you can build into these test beds that like we discussed today? And what are the research papers which accompany this kind of uh, problems and data sets? This is another aspect that we will study. And deployment guidelines completes the entire picture because now we will have not only the research, use case, data, test beds, tools, models, and open source, but also deployment aspects covered in the use case to the best of your knowledge. So this completes the picture. Through these mentoring sessions, we will try to build this kind of a picture for your use case. A couple of things that you need to look at is that you need to um, mm, you need to see what are the use case requirements on AI models. Are there feature developments that carry requirements? Are there network enhancements that have to be written requirements for? So again, three aspects. Firstly, AI, features, and network enhancements. AI models that I don't have to explain to anybody, right? Kind of are there kind of type of trainings, federated learnings? We discussed that already. Are there privacy preserving mechanisms for training, model orchestration? We discussed all this a little bit in the AI part. But on the feature side, for example, today we discussed about this fault management use case. We looked at the different aspects of that. We looked at tool sets which can build you such features and simulate such features also. So these feature specific requirements are another part, and then there are hooks and APIs required. There are changes in the network that are required as in the form of enhancements. So these are the type of requirements. If when you are writing requirements, then I will probably write it as these three type of requirements. Then then another aspect to look at is that here you have these test beds, 5G use case test bed or open source test beds, whichever, right? Whichever one you have, this kind of specific testbed requirements. Are there requirements on simulators? This has to be called out in the form that I told you here, that is including scenarios, including formats that you will use, models that you will use, and the specific use case, specific requirements, and tool sets that you will use. So these testbed specific requirements makes your proposal bit more mature than just having AI only specific modeling techniques, and that is unidirectional. But when you have complete set, including testing validation requirements, that makes it complete proposal. Are there open source solutions which complement the lab? I think we discussed one today in case of 5G scenarios, but you could also look at other open source solutions which can be used to complement whatever you have in the lab. Are there academic research papers? So that's this part over here, which can be published in collaboration, that actually brings out the specific aspect which is mentioned here, that collaborative development with academia, industry, and government, right? So if academia, as we all know, is very focused at maybe paper publications, and that is important innovation which is coming out. So, are there academic papers which can be not only published but referenced as well, cited as well, with collaboration, maybe published in India or abroad, whatever may be the case, but cited and published with collaboration? Are there, and finally, as I told you, are there deployment guidelines which can be called out as part of the use case? One critical aspect which I have heard many times is that the complaint that you don't have data sets and data sets are not available and so on. ITU has published data sets. A whole bunch of data sets are published. I think I discussed this last time also, but there are about 45 data sets which are accessible and confirmed. This is in the form of a correspondence group on data sets. You can freely access this by creating an access account, which is free of cost as well. And you can utilize a whole bunch of data sets, which includes agriculture, healthcare, environment, urban planning, blah, blah, blah. And there are reference papers which accompanying that, models and tool sets are also there, which completes this picture. So it's not only the data, but there are papers, webinars, and tool sets which are mentioned as part of these data sets. So you can also use these data sets for analysis and research purposes. If you want to publish, ITU has a journal on specifically on special edition for AI and machine learning. Paper submission is open currently. 20th April is the deadline for paper submission. So in case you want to cite or publish papers, where do you find information on datasets? So there are a whole bunch of webinars which ITU has published. You can see here. There is a discovery series of webinars, which publishes expert talks, including from India. There are several expert talks which have been published over a period of time. I mean, we started in 2020 onwards. There are many completely different set of um, webinars which describe data sets, tools, and problem statements, and even reference solutions. So you can access all of them from this website, free of cost. So that is what I wanted to cover today. In essence, what you have to look at is that you want to create high quality proposals using these techniques that I told you today. So, with that, I want to spend some time at least on answering any questions that we have. Next session, we will look at some examples again for specifically looking at the data sets, tool sets, and each of these aspects. If you have specific examples that you would like us to take, then you can call out from these data sets or from specific use case aspects. But if I don't get suggestions, then we will take generally some of the examples which are called out in these data sets or papers, and we will analyze the exactly same aspects to identify requirements, how to write requirements, how to cite prior arts and build on top of that, how to highlight the novelty aspects so that you can win, what tool sets are available, which open source can be used in that, how to make sure and end-to-end aspect, including deployment guidelines to be called out. And yeah, so I think that those are the aspects that we will cover in the next meeting. If there is any particular aspect that you would like to ask, please go ahead and ask right now, or my coordinates are available in the PPT, so you can also email me or ask me later. I believe this session is recorded and the slides will be made available as well. You can ask Shubhamji for the slides later. That is the presentation, but if there are specific questions, you can ask any specific questions, please. Yes, Antarsi.
Sir, good evening, sir. So this is Sheikh
Yes, please.
Altaf. I
Yes.
have one doubt, sir.
Mhm.
Sir, now while we are registering the 5G here, they have mentioned like what to say 5G enabled labs institute, sir.
Mm.
So I have like my college is in Tamil Nadu, sir. In the 5G labs, my college is not mentioned, sir, and it is mentioned like SRM, NIT, 3G, like that is mentioned, sir. So out of these institutes, which institute should I select? After selecting, what is the process? I don't know, sir. Can you please explain regarding that, sir? Like 5G lab.
Yeah, I think last time our colleague Subhamji and all, they explained this aspect. I don't know because I am looking at only the technical aspects. Is there somebody here who can explain, please? Maybe Subhamji, can you explain how this use case labs or if they are not available? I think last time we somebody was explaining. I am not familiar with what is the procedure to be followed, but I know that you have to route your proposal through that.
Oh,
Anybody, Shoaibji, do you know?
No, no, sir. I don't know how to reach to sir. Shubham sir
Okay,
also
in
not
that,
available. Maybe sir recorded session I will provide him if available. I
yeah,
will.
yeah. Last time I remember Asi Samaji actually explained that, and I remember this question was asked. and he explained it what needs to be done. But also, what you can also do is uh, to maybe ask Shubham to write this up, and we can also discuss it next time. Yes,
Yes, yes, yes,
yes,
yes.
Thank you.
yes. Rudra Prasad, Rudra Pratap ji, please.
Yeah,
Uh,
am I audible, sir?
yes, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, good evening, sir. Sir, so we are developing a prototype. So that prototype should be a working model or it can be a research project also.
It can be any maturity level. You can have a working prototype, you can have a proposal. Maturity level is not what matters. There are solutions which are products also, no? So there are different maturity levels, but at this point, we are looking at proposals which are high quality. So I would suggest to develop solutions which are proposals which are comprehensive. I am at the moment, I'm not bothered about whether you have a product in the market, what is your revenue, and whether you have implemented, whether it is a POC, how many features you have implemented in the POC. That those things are not my concern at the moment, but proposal should be comprehensive. So I think somebody was asking last time also this question. The another variant of this question actually, that whether the proposal should be based on the 5G use case lab constraints. My answer is the same, that if you do that, then you're limiting your creativity to what is already existing in the 5G use case lab, and probably the bugs and errors which are there as well. I think you shouldn't do that. Your proposal should be, there is a deadline on the proposal also, right? So by that deadline, as a mentor, my responsibility is to make sure your proposal is passing that deadline and you are passing that particular hurdle. That is my priority at the moment. Whether you have a product POC, not mattering at the moment. Paul G, I think was
Yes,
first. Please.
hello sir, I am Paul Ravindran here. Just
Yes, please.
want some clarification on what is there any format in which we have to submit, because in the circular I just see you have to give problem statement, solution, and expected outcome. But is there any format that we do for normally for DST and things like that? Do you have, or is there any length of the proposal that you have any constraints on?
Template. So I don't know if there is a template available. We will create a template if that is not available. I will discuss the template next week. Thank you very much. That is very good input. But in general, my suggestion is to handle basically um, this kind of at least, at least this kind of aspects. I will show you what we discussed last time was this kind of aspects. Okay, so you discussed the literature survey, which includes background study. You discuss the gaps and analysis. You discuss the requirements and architectural points of interface. At least you build this much, okay? And I will discuss a larger template by next week. Thank you very much.
The other question I have is the proposal. Can
Yes,
I
please.
continue?
Yes,
Can I
please. Yes,
continue?
please. Yes, please.
The names of the students that should be
Uh-huh.
included in the proposal, right? Because I am
Uh-huh.
mentoring two students. I am trying
Uh-huh.
to help students submit the proposal with me as the lead.
Uh-huh.
And so in the proposal, we should mention the students as one of the investigators. How does it work? I just want to have an idea.
So I think the general thumb rule that I always tell is that if the student's contribution is good, if that student's contribution towards the solution is significant, then Wilfred, can you please mute for the moment, please? Thank you. So what I was telling, yeah. So if the student's contribution is significant, if you think that they have built something and they require they are if you were to write a paper and you would add them as co-authors, then the same thing applies here. So you should go ahead and add them if you think their contribution is good and if they have done the work. Otherwise you should not. It's a simple matter of it's just like in a paper, no? You determine the co-author based on the contributions, so you decide the same thumb rule you apply here.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think Chakradhar, please. Chakradhar, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Chakradhar. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
I had a doubt that what if two proposals are like somewhat similar? Will it create a problem?
Two proposals from you or two proposals from you and
No,
somebody else?
randomly any two proposals.
That you leave to the judge, no, Chakradhar. Why you want to worry about the judge's problem, huh? I suggest that this kind of things you leave to the judges. But you asked, so I will answer. So basically, my thinking in this case is that we will look for specific aspects which distinguish it. This is what we have done in the past. That I talked to you. Today I gave you very specific aspects which you can use to increase the novelty, distinguish it, how to make it mature. I told you all this, right? You apply all that, and then let us see whether there are really close cutting solutions in the same domain, same use case. There is a problem for the judges. It's a good problem to have. I think we will solve that at that point, Chakradhar. I would not worry about it at the moment.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Hmm. Anybody else who has questions? Rudra Pratap ji again has questions, or is old question? Old question, I
Sir,
think.
new question. New question, sir.
New question. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have two questions. First, is there any team size limit? We can have maximum of this members in a team.
This was also answered last time. I think it was 4 team members. I will have to check whether what is the exact number. But if I remember right, it was 4 team members. Huh?
Okay, sir.
It
And sir,
was it
another
was
question is
it
that
was discussed in the last week's session. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, please.
okay, sir. Sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. But another question is that, like, do we need to replace the communication model with 5G? Like, if we are using a drone technology where we are using radio frequency to communicate, so do we need to replace that radio frequency with 5G, or is there anything else required for this competition?
Okay, I would not suggest you to replace anything what you have in the use case. I think you should just submit it to the following the guidelines that we discussed in the mentoring sessions, and then leave it to the mentors to suggest whether whatever modifications that you want. I mean, what they want. I don't think you should proactively replace anything in your use case. By the way, I don't know what you mean by RF, drone-based RF sensor. What is that? I mean, some kind of point-to-point or LiDAR, or what sensor are you using? In whatever be the case, I don't suggest that you should replace anything. You should submit as it is, and then leave it to the mentors.
Okay, sir,
Uh,
got it, sir.
yeah. Who's that? Just a moment. Um, does my use case must have a AI/ML model? No, your use case need not have a AI/ML model, but it can use any AI/ML model which is currently existing, or you can have a solution which builds an AI/ML model, or you can not have an AI/ML model, but other types of intelligence solutions. Whatever may be the case, I think the value of the use case should be clear using this type of solutions that we discussed so far. Your use case should be innovative. It should probably use some kind of innovative intelligent solutions, and should differentiate from others. I don't think you should integrate a AI/ML model. That is not required. But you can submit it and let us take a look at what you have. It's highly difficult to predict what you have without looking at it. Mm, just a moment, just a moment. Ankur is asking, we have already submitted the form based on today's session. Wow, you are quite fast. Uh, we think we should improvise the document submitted, but we just submit it again, okay? And you probably keep it as modified or something like that in the title, all right? So that we know that it is a modified version of what you have already. Toshak, please. Toshak was in. Yes, please, Toshak. Now you are able to unmute. Try unmuting, Toshak.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, now yes.
Sir, is there any problem statement for which we have to submit the solutions we are proposing?
Pre-existing problem statements. No, there are no pre-existing problem statements, but there are some domain areas. So the domain areas, um, I believe, what are the domain areas? I need to look at it. I will tell you after looking at it. Um, just a moment. But I think even these domain areas are quite flexible. Okay. So I don't think you should worry about it. I think focus areas, yeah, key feature focus areas are given, but I don't think these are limitations. There is AI-driven network maintenance, IoT-enabled applications, smart health, broadcasting, agriculture, education, industrial automation. There is a long list, but I would suggest there is not a limitation. In fact, directors, Mr. R.C. Sharma has already told that that is not a limitation. So you should probably just take whatever domain that your problem statement that you like.
Okay, sir.
Wilfred, please.
Good evening, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, please.
So actually, what I wanted to ask is, currently we are working on an idea which we have proposed, which is basically in the domain of smart health. So what I wanted to know is like how exactly do we have to implement the 5G technology? Like, are there any restrictions or are there any parameters which we'll have to consider particularly? Like if we are working on a GPS module, whether the GPS module should be only working along with 5G, or like it should have more efficiency when it comes along with 5G. So that's one of my concern.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. Where I think it depends upon the answer depends upon which aspect of smart health are you doing. But in general, if you look at 5G, there are some aspects which are characteristic to that 5G is, low latency, throughput, and scaling. These are the main aspects that one looks at with respect to 5G. So when you come to 6G, there's a different picture because now you look at intelligence and scaling. That kind of picture is different in 5G and 6G. Whatever you take, okay, then your solution can integrate some requirements corresponding to that. For example, does in smart healthcare, if you are looking at remote surgeries, that is also smart healthcare. Patient monitoring is also smart healthcare. So I don't know which aspect of the solution that you are looking at. Corresponding to that, you may get requirements on latency, throughput, or scaling. Then you can also look at 6G aspect and correspondingly take some requirements corresponding to the 6G picture also. This depends upon what type of application you are building. You mentioned GPS. In GPS,
Right.
only thing I can think of is that at the moment, and what I can think of is whether it is reliable, whether what is the granularity, accuracy that you are getting, whether it will work in indoor versus outdoor. This kind of requirements may be required in case of GPS, but you may look at what are the challenges in implementing such solutions, connect that to specific characteristics of 5G or 6G, for example, low latency requirement, throughput requirement, or scalability requirements, or intelligence requirements. That you can see the basic picture from ITU and then decide which aspect you want to connect to.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
All right, and that is 7:30. I would like to close and look at it again in the next session. I think template, somebody was mentioning template. So I will take a look at template. In fact, some examples with some templates we can discuss next week. Thank you very much. Have a good evening and happy proposals.
Excuse
Bye
me.
bye. Yes, Bilal.
Will there be a recording of this session available?
Yes, Shubhamji has already started the recording. We will.
Okay.
I will talk to him to make that available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for the session.
Bye bye. Happy good evening. Happy proposals. Bye bye. Bye bye.